Hey friends, today is an extremely important video so that you can better understand certain things. Because in today's video, we're going to talk a bit about this market psychology, what matters, and what's currently happening. The biggest problem is also why we perform the way we do. But before we get into that, guys, in these tough times, even my viewers don't have the motivation to like and comment on the videos anymore, so I'm asking you, please do that if you can. And we had a very hard Bitcoin crash last night, just below $77,000. And I don't want to say anything, but we predicted this in our VIP trading group. So feel free to join us there. I'll show you that. Here we did the Bitcoin update, and you can see that very clearly. I expected that we would break below this level, below the 78,000 mark. And from there, we'll see the bounce, the trend reversal, and we'll rise again. That's exactly how we traded. And even if you want to benefit from this trading group, check out the description. It's completely free. But now we're going to talk about the entire market situation, because this market, the mood and the market situation are really not fun for most people right now. Me neither, by the way. The sentiment right now is really not cool. The markets are reacting completely only to news, and that is very, very uncertain. And that's also what is obviously intended here, because we have more market participants in this market than ever before. And that's why they looked very closely at what the market psychology looks like this time. And they deliberately tried to trick the regular investors, because based on time, data, and facts, the beginning of the year would be 2025 is looking very positive for Bitcoin, and just look at this. It really hasn't been the case so far. So far, the months have actually been quite bad, and that hasn't been the case in the past. And even when we look at Bitcoin dominance, we all expected to see a drop in Bitcoin dominance at the beginning of the year, and that we would see the altcoin season. Because in the past, every time after the halving at the beginning of the year, we saw the drop and the altcoin season. But this time it's not like that. This time it's different. And that's exactly what the market makers wanted here. They just wanted to outsmart us because regular investors have become a lot smarter. And because we now have an extremely large number of investors who have figured out the whole game a bit. But still, the market makers want to make sure that even the last person here becomes bearish. Moreover, we are now experiencing longer stagnation phases, and that's completely brilliant for the market makers. You have to imagine these stagnation phases always feel longer, and it's really tough, especially for the psychology, because you just see your portfolio shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. Still, we are not in a bear market. Still, new capital is coming into the markets here. Still, leverage is being used here. And that's what the market makers want. They want to prolong this bull run for as long as possible. Just look at this. Because of this movement yesterday, where Bitcoin only moved by about $3,000 to $4,000, nearly $1 billion were liquidated overall. And that's the thing. The market makers are making really good money in this market sentiment because we have an extremely high volume. Right now we have 3 times more trading volume than in the last cycle. The market makers are deliberately prolonging this bull run so that they can extract as much capital as possible. The genius part is that the mood shifts weekly, and we just need to take a look at the fear and greed index. Here we are now at 15 while Bitcoin is actually doing relatively well. But the altcoins really aren't doing well in comparison, and that's the big problem here. The altcoins are not doing well. We are in complete fear. People are uncertain and don't know what will happen next. And that's intentional, meant to make as many people as possible feel fear, and for some people to maybe even leave the market. Expectations are going down, also deliberate market manipulation. But what I can tell you right away is that when it starts, everyone will be bullish again. It only takes a few positive days, and the market sentiment can turn around quickly. Think about it. When we saw that massive drop here, then we had that Trump post, and we shot back up strongly. Everyone was really bullish again. A few days later, we're even lower than here. And that's just how it is. We are extremely news-oriented. Trump seems to be able to influence the market however he wants. And accordingly, he and his market makers, his people here, are making a lot of money right now. You just have to understand that this is intentional, that people are being tricked because too many, including myself at the beginning of the year, thought, hey, just like in the past, we could see the altcoin season now with the job of Bitcoin dominance. I also thought this could happen right at the beginning of the year because, in the past it was like that, but this time it wasn't, because the market makers probably thought we can't make it that easy for people. What many here don't understand is that when Trump won here, there were a lot of people going long, and the balance between long and short just wasn't there anymore. Everyone was long, and that's a huge problem because the market can't rise sensibly or healthily. The market needs to be in balance, or we should have more shorts than longs for us to go up here. And because we had too many longs, the market makers had to intervene and sent us into this phase where we mainly drop. so that we can grab as much liquidity as possible. The whole thing feels like a natural market consolidation to me. Nothing else is it in the end, and that's important. We need it because otherwise the markets can't rise. We can't just push through. I mean, we already had a massive rise from $50,000 to nearly $108,000 with Bitcoin. Here, within a few months, multi-billion dollars have flowed in. Of course, we first need a stronger correction after that. The correction so far is also about 30%. This is a normal bull market correction. We've had such corrections here in the bull market at 21 every time. That's completely part of it. Back then it was 32%. And you have to realize that what we have seen now was a normal market maker reaction because they had to intervene. We've seen this every time in the past, but right now there are also positive things, and you should pay more attention to that because every situation brings new opportunities. I mean, we're at 15 on the Fear and Greed Index. And you have to imagine this is almost as low as during the Corona crash or the FTX crash. We're currently this deep in fear, and that even though we're at $80,000 per Bitcoin, the current market sentiment is being exploited so that certain large market participants can accumulate significantly, while people are getting anxious. We have such positive things like never before, and yet we're being pushed so deep into fear. And with the RSI, we're completely oversold, which in the end is also a positive sign, because every time we're oversold, better days come again. We need to think stoically and counter-cyclically, and that's exactly when to buy when blood is flowing in the streets. That's a very old stock market saying, and this saying has pretty much always held true. That's why we shouldn't fall into fear during such times, but rather stick to clear stock market wisdom. In my opinion, the Fed, or rather Trump, is slowly but surely intervening because what Trump has been doing all this time is just creating uncertainty. He did it intentionally to strengthen the dollar, to get into a better negotiating position. That's why there are all these tariffs, but at some point it all becomes too stretched. And then he has to intervene again, and the Fed needs to intervene. Because we see, for example, that China is rolling out a $300 million package to strengthen the Chinese economy. Because we see something like this, we must also... The Fed probably needs to intervene to fight against this and lower interest rates. But Donald Trump also needs to slowly back off from this course so that he doesn't completely bleed the markets dry, because I don't think that's his goal either. He also wants to weaken the dollar in the long term, as he has always said, so that we can export better with the dollar. That's why we're slowly reaching a turning point. Now that we're here, the most important thing is that the M2 money supply is expanding. You've probably heard this a few times already, but we see that every time the M2 money supply has increased, there was about a 70-day delay, and then Bitcoin followed suit. That means around the middle of this month, we should start to feel the effects of the M2 money supply. And that's extremely positive, because only when we get fresh, new capital into the markets can they grow properly again. And especially for the altcoins, this money supply is even more important, because that's money that is more likely to flow into risk assets. That's extremely important, and that's the most positive thing we've seen in the last few months. In my opinion, this is probably even more positive than Donald Trump as president, because these are just macro data that you can't ignore. And then we move on to the last point. When is it going to blow up? Exactly when no one expects it. Just think about how it was during this stagnation phase. Some people have said again, okay, that's it, we're heading into a bear market, or we're not seeing any more pumps or whatever. Then the pump came, but out of nowhere, and it was huge. It was gigantic. We just pumped through it. No ifs or buts. And it will be the same this time. When no one expects it, we'll see the turnaround, and then it will be significant. And that's just how the markets work. You have to understand this here. You have to be aware of that. The markets don't move the way the majority expects. And those are just things I wanted to share with you today, and I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a lot of work, but of course I enjoyed it. I would appreciate it if you could give me something back in the form of a like and a comment. And check out the trading group. Everything about that is in the description. Until next time, friends. Bye.